We found these stories shared online, written by the ones who lived through them, and I'm going to read them to you. I was 21 the summer this happened, taking a break after a brutal semester, and my boyfriend Ethan, who was 23, rented us a small wooden cabin on the edge of Blackwater National Forest for 5 days. It was simple but perfect. 2 old chairs on the porch, a fireplace inside, and a view that disappeared into endless pine. The nearest town, Millersford, was 20 minutes away, far enough that the nights felt untouched, and close enough that we didn't feel stranded. The first 4 days were peaceful in a way that almost felt unreal. We hiked marked trails, cooked over a fire, ate on the porch, and drank cheap wine under stars you never see back home. On Friday evening, Ethan's friend Caleb showed up with his girlfriend Lila. They drove in from Pinecrest and acted like they'd been coming here forever. Caleb brought beer, Lila brought snacks, and suddenly our quiet cabin felt like a little gathering spot. Around 10, someone mentioned ice cream, and it sounded perfect. Caleb said there was a 24-hour gas station just a 5-minute walk away if you cut through the woods on an old local trail. He pointed behind the cabin and said you could see the station lights through the trees if you looked right. Locals use it all the time, he said. It's quick, it's safe. Ethan and I volunteered to go. I grabbed my headlamp, he took his big flashlight, and we headed into the trees. The moon was bright, the air warm, and the trail was surprisingly clear. Packed dirt, pine needles, spaced-out trees, and that faint glow from the gas station off to our right. We joked, walked, relaxed. Nothing felt wrong. Until it did. Maybe 300 meters in, we heard a scream. A woman's scream, short, sharp, from the left where the woods grew thicker and darker. We froze. Ethan called out, asking if she was okay. A voice answered immediately, saying she'd fallen, sprained her ankle, couldn't stand. Ethan swept his flashlight toward the thicket, but it hit nothing but trunks. She called again, saying she heard us, begging us to come closer. Ethan started toward the brush, but something in me tightened and I grabbed his arm. It didn't feel right. If she had a phone, why no light? Why wasn't she trying to crawl toward the trail? Everyone has a phone. I whispered that to him. He called out, asking her to turn on her flashlight or describe what she was near. There was a pause, 3, maybe 4 seconds. Too long. Then she said her phone died and we needed to walk toward her voice. Her tone shifted, sharper, more insistent. Goosebumps crawled up my arms. I told Ethan quietly that a hurt person would be talking nonstop, not going silent between sentences. He nodded and told her we were calling for help, that rangers would come with medical gear. Her voice changed instantly. No pain, no fear, just anger. No, don't call anyone. Just come here. Come now. We didn't answer. We turned and walked fast back down the trail, not running, but close. I looked back once and thought I saw something between the trees on the left, a shape maybe, but it could have been branches or my own fear. When we got back, Caleb and Lila were still on the porch. We told them what happened. Caleb tried to laugh it off, but his eyes kept scanning the tree line. He said strange people sometimes drifted through the forest. He mentioned a busted drug camp a few miles away and a mentally unstable guy who'd attacked hikers years back. Lila said she'd heard stories about fake help me voices used to lure people off trails. Ethan called the ranger station. The duty ranger said he'd send a patrol. We waited on the porch, lights off, listening to the woods. An hour and a half later, the ranger called back. They'd searched the area with high-powered lights and thermal imaging. Nothing. No person, no tracks, no dropped items, no sign anyone had been there at all. He said calls like this were rare but not unheard of near roads at night. Usually someone trying to lure tourists somewhere isolated. He told us we did the right thing. We didn't get ice cream. Caleb and Lila left around midnight. Ethan and I locked every door and window, shoved a dresser against the front door, and barely slept. Every rustle made us sit up. In the morning, we packed and left a day early. More than a year later, I still hear that voice. How convincing it sounded at first, shaky and hurt, and how fast it turned cold when we didn't do what it wanted. I don't know who was out there or what would have happened if Ethan had stepped off that trail. And I'm very, very glad I never found out. I was 22 when this happened, driving home from a late shift at the restaurant I worked at. The kind of shift where your feet ache and your brain feels foggy, but you're just grateful to be heading home. It was close to midnight, warm out, the kind of night where the air feels heavy and the streets get strangely quiet. I took the same route I always did, a long stretch of county road lined with empty fields and a few scattered houses with their porch lights off. About 10 minutes in, I noticed a car behind me, a white Tesla with its headlights dimmed lower than normal, almost like it didn't want to be noticed. I didn't think much of it at first. People drive weird at night. But every time I slowed a little, it slowed too. When I sped up, it matched me exactly. Not tailgating, not passing, just mirroring. I told myself it was coincidence. I kept driving. The road was usually busy even at night, but that night it felt like the whole world had emptied out. No other cars, no porch lights, no dogs barking. Just me and that Tesla behind me, gliding silently like it was floating. I turned onto Maple Hollow Road, a shortcut I only took when I was tired. The Tesla turned too. I felt my stomach tighten. I tried to see the driver in the rearview mirror, but the windows were tinted darker than I'd ever seen. No silhouette, no movement, just black glass. I told myself to breathe. I turned again, this time onto a small residential street where the houses sat far apart and the streetlights flickered like they were struggling to stay on. The Tesla followed. I slowed down near a four-way stop, hoping it would pass me. Instead, it stopped too, but a full car length farther back than normal, like it wanted distance but still wanted to watch. The headlights dimmed even lower, almost off. That was the moment the hair on my arms lifted. I turned left. It turned left. I turned right. It turned right. Every move I made, it copied, but always with that same unnatural calm, like it wasn't reacting, it was anticipating. I pulled into a small gas station that was usually open late, but tonight the lights were off and the windows were dark. The sign on the door said closed in faded red letters. The parking lot was empty except for a single, flickering overhead light that buzzed like an insect. I parked under it because it was the only place that felt visible. The Tesla rolled in behind me but didn't park. It just stopped at the far end of the lot, facing me, headlights barely glowing. I couldn't see the driver, not even a shape, just that blank, black windshield. I pretended to look for something in my bag while I grabbed my phone. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. I texted my roommate that someone was following me and sent my location. The Tesla's headlights brightened suddenly, like someone tapped the screen inside. Then they dimmed again. I don't know why, but that tiny flicker made my chest tighten. It felt intentional. I put my car in reverse, slowly, trying not to look panicked. The Tesla didn't move. I pulled out of the lot and turned toward the main road. After a few seconds, the Tesla rolled forward, smooth and silent, and followed. I didn't go home. I drove to the police station 2 towns over, the one that's always lit up like a hospital. The Tesla followed me all the way there until I turned into the parking lot. The second my tires hit the curb cut, the Tesla braked hard, reversed, and sped off without making a sound. No hesitation, no confusion, like it knew exactly where I was going and wanted no part of it. I sat in my car for a long time, shaking, watching the empty road. I filed a report, but there wasn't much to say. No plate number, no driver description, just a white Tesla with windows too dark to see through, and a way of moving that felt a little too aware of me, a little too patient, a little too quiet. Even now, months later, whenever I see a Tesla behind me at night, my chest tightens. I check my mirrors over and over until I'm sure it's not matching my speed, not mirroring my turns, not waiting for me to be alone again on some dark, empty road where the world feels just slightly off. I was 22 when I worked nights at the Iron Lantern, a little bar wedged between a dead machine shop and Red Line Yard on the industrial edge of Riverton. The kind of place where the air always smelled like hot metal and diesel, and the streets emptied so completely after dark it felt like the world forgot they existed. Day shifts were predictable. Welders, forklift guys, truckers grabbing coffee. But nothing ever felt strange. Until that Tuesday. It was a little after 2 when the door opened and this man walked in. About 50, heavy build, gray coveralls with a patch that said, Marlowe's Engine Service, hands stained with oil like it had soaked into him for good. He ordered a black coffee and sat right across from me. At first it was normal small talk, but he didn't stop. His questions slid into personal things, where I grew up, if I lived alone, what I did on weekends, and he repeated my answers under his breath like he was storing them somewhere. Then he said, "So you're from Pine Hollow? Moved here last year?" I wasn't. I corrected him. He nodded slowly, like he was adjusting a picture in his mind. When I said I didn't have a partner, he murmured, "No partner, right." He watched me the whole time I moved around the bar, and the room felt smaller with him in it. He finished his coffee, left a 20 for a $3 cup, and walked out. The next day he came again. Same time, same stool, same 20. And the next day. And the next. By the second week, he wasn't asking new questions. He was checking my answers, like he wanted to make sure I hadn't changed. Still from Pine Hollow. Still no partner. Still liked that loud guitar stuff. Every day at 2, my stomach dropped before the door even opened. Then I found the note. It was tucked under my windshield wiper after a shift, sealed in a plastic sleeve like someone wanted to protect it. The handwriting was neat. Too neat. He wrote that I reminded him beauty still lived in the world. He asked if we could talk outside of work. He suggested Friday. He signed it, Ray. I brought it straight to my manager, Harlan, a big guy with faded tattoos and the kind of calm you get from decades of breaking up bar fights. He read the note twice and said, "This isn't nothing. I'll handle it." The next day, Ray walked in like usual, but before he could sit, Harlan intercepted him. They talked quietly. Ray nodded, looking embarrassed, and left without ordering. He didn't come back that week. I told myself it was over. Then one night around 11, I walked home to my little duplex. I never told customers where I lived. But when I turned onto my street, I saw it. An old blue Chevy pickup sitting under the street lamp. The same Marlowe's engine service decal in the back window. The engine wasn't running, but someone was inside. A shape, still, watching. I didn't go home. I walked past like I didn't notice, phone already in my hand. I snapped a picture of the truck, then the plate. RVT-6124. I turned the corner and headed straight back to the lantern. Harlan didn't hesitate. He called the police. An officer came, took my statement, ran the plate. It belonged to Raymond Hale, 52, owner of Marlowe's Engine Service. Married 26 years. A daughter in college. No record. The officer talked to him the next day. Ray admitted he'd been in my neighborhood, but called it a coincidence. The officer issued a formal warning to stay away from me, my workplace, my home. I quit the lantern a month later and moved to an apartment complex with a gate code. 2 years have passed. Ray never approached me again. But sometimes, when I'm driving, I'll see a blue Chevy with a faded decal in the back window, and my chest tightens. My hands grip the wheel. I check my mirrors until I'm sure it isn't following. Because I learned something I wish I hadn't. Some people don't just watch you. They study you. And once they start, it's hard to shake the feeling that somewhere, in some quiet corner of the world, they're still keeping track. I was 18 when I finished a 6-month appliance repair course and got hired by a little service outfit called Bright Home Repairs as a field tech, driving around fixing washers, dryers, fridges, whatever people managed to break. The pay was decent for someone my age, and I liked the independence. My boss, Mark, was in his 50s and ran the place like a drill sergeant. First day, he showed me the vans, the parts room, the paperwork, then leaned in and said the one rule he wasn't joking about. Always keep the customer's front door open while you're working. He said it 3 times. Door open means you can run. Door open means someone hears you. Door closed means you're trapped. I believed him. The first month was easy. People were polite, grateful, sometimes embarrassed their appliance died. I learned the usual problems, learned how to explain things without making anyone feel dumb, and I kept my visits short. Then a name started showing up on my schedule over and over. A guy named Leonard. Middle-aged, lived alone on the top floor of an old brick building with no elevator. He called every week, sometimes twice, always for tiny issues. The dispatcher kept sending me because I was nearby. First time I went, he opened the door looking worn out, unshaven, wrinkled shirt, sweatpants. His apartment was a maze of boxes, bottles, takeout bags, and the air smelled stale and sour. The fridge noise he complained about was just an old compressor. I told him that, he nodded, paid cash, and I left. 4 days later, he called again. Now the washer wasn't spinning right. It spun perfectly. Another false alarm. What bothered me wasn't the wasted trip. It was how he watched me. Most customers wander off. Leonard didn't. He sat in a sagging armchair and stared at me the entire time, silent, like he was studying me. After that, I followed Mark's rule like gospel. Door wide open, tool bag right on the threshold, phone in my pocket, never in the bag. By the 5th or 6th visit, I wasn't annoyed anymore. I was alert. That Friday, last job of the day, of course it was him again. Fridge noise. I climbed the stairs, knocked, and he opened the door in the same clothes, same tired eyes, same smell of tobacco and sweat. The apartment looked worse. More trash, More clutter, like he'd stopped pretending to care. I stepped inside, left the door wide open, dragged the hallway trash can over to wedge it, and set my tool bag right on the threshold. He didn't talk while I pulled the fridge out and checked the back. Everything worked fine. He watched me from his recliner, not blinking much. Then he said the washer was acting up again. I went to check it. It was shoved in a narrow hallway, and a laundry basket blocked the corner. I needed weight in the drum, so I started moving clothes from the basket into the washer, keeping him in my peripheral vision. I was half turned when I heard footsteps. I looked back and saw him walking toward the front door. No explanation, no warning. He just reached out and closed it. The latch clicked. Then the deadbolt turned. I stepped out from the washer corner fast, so I wasn't boxed in. My heart was pounding so hard I felt it in my throat. I kept my voice steady and said, "I need the door open. Company rule." He leaned against the door, arms crossed. "There's a draft," he said. "I'm cold." It was late June, 90 degrees outside, and his apartment felt like a sauna. I took a slow step closer. "I need it open," I said. "Please unlock it." My voice shook, and I hated that he heard it. He didn't move. He just stared at me like he was waiting for something. "Are you done with the repair?" he asked. "Almost," I lied. "I just need a tool from my bag." I pointed at the bag sitting right by his feet. He looked down at it, then at me, and the silence stretched so long it felt like the air thickened. Then his voice went soft, almost dreamy. "You're always in such a hurry," he said. "You come, you fix things, you run away. Stay a little longer. Check it carefully." And right then my phone rang, dispatcher calling, and I lifted it like a lifeline and screamed for help.